supposed to go. So today we wanted to give you kind of a recap of the mission trip that we just went on, and it's paramount to me and Barbara that we not make it like a long, boring slideshow, because sometimes it's something like, if you go on a trip, there's the temptation to make it like, let me show you all the pictures, and so what we want to do is make it very relevant, and we know that you guys have poured in your resources, your time and your money into purchasing things, gifts for the people involved, and so we definitely want to connect it with you so that you see the impact that you had. We want to give you some of the highlights and talk to you about some of the things that we learned, some of the great things that God's doing there with our ministry partners. So today, Barbara and I are going to go over some things, and Miss Billy's going to talk with us too. She's going to share some of her thoughts on it too. So Barbara's going to start off with kind of a rundown of some of the highlights of the major events, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So,
do we have a mic plan?
What's that?
Do we have a mic plan?
Yeah. You can use mine. No, you can't use mine. Mine's sewn to me. Sorry. A good pastor. Yeah, that's good. A good pastor notifies the sound crew in advance. It's unfortunate you guys don't have one of those.
Or that, or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. All right, so I'm just going to give you guys a kind of a quick overview of some of the different activities and things that we did, just so that you kind of have an idea of where we were and what we did. Of course, the usual, we're in Nuevo Laredo, and Laredo right at the border of Texas and Mexico right there. And again, I'm not looking to bore you guys with all the events of the week. We call the summer trip a sampler camp because we do all kinds of different activities and different mission things. We don't go with the intent of just building a church or just building a house or something like that. We go and we do a whole bunch of different activities. So one of the things we do, we got to go to Church in the Park, which is in Laredo, on the U.S. side of the border, and it's literally just a church in the park in downtown Laredo, and it's a lot of homeless people that attend there, but some people just live nearby, and then they have a meal afterwards, and so it's just a service we get to attend there, and you guys have seen pictures of that before. That's something we do most years. This was actually a deportee lunch that we got to participate in. These are Mexican nationals that have actually been deported from the U.S. back to Mexico. And there's an organization as part of the state government there that helps them get to where they're going, helps provide a computer, phone, anything to help them get in touch with people. So we were able to be there and provide a lunch for them. Some of the folks there, like this guy, he's 20. He's been in the U.S. since he was 3. So he knows no other place to live, and now he's been left in Mexico to live there. If it's not the mic, it's the PowerPoint, or it's... There we go. He was pulled over for a taillight being out. Yeah, there were several stories like that where I got a ticket, or I had a taillight out or something. And
not like robbing banks or
no, just happened to get found in a lot of cases. Yeah. Then we also got to visit a couple different children's homes. So we played with the kids. We took them some shoes, played Uno, worked on things around the house for some of the homes, painted the girls' nails, just all kinds of different things. Did crafts with them, played games and stuff, played jump rope and everything. We also had an opportunity at a church to deliver gift bags of different groceries. So we went to the store. You can see us there shopping. We got basic supplies. I'm talking like oil and flour and sugar, basic stuff. And we're able to put together 50 grocery bags for these folks to have. So there you see us bagging up all the groceries that we purchased. So then we had a kind of a little worship service at the church before we passed out the grocery bags to everybody. We also did vacation Bible school at a church, and so we had a lesson, we had songs, we had crafts. And then we had games in the street, so the kids rotate through the different stations and have different activities at those stations. We also worked at a Bible school. We got to paint. They needed some interior painting and some painting on the exterior walls, so we got to do some of that for them. And then the family that we built a house for 5 years ago, we always go and visit them every year. And so we took the family to the park one morning and got to play with them and got to do a little work on their house. And then there was another morning where we actually went to visit families that belonged to one of our ministry partners' churches, and we just went to their homes and got to visit with them some for a little while. We'll come back to that a little bit more later. And then, so that's kind of a summary of some of the different activities. Like I say, we do a lot of different things. It's multiple activities a day, but that's just some of the mix of things that we get to do. So.
You took like 2 minutes, so if you want to
Yes.
expand on anything. That was the fastest we've ever done a summary.
No, I mean, we can come back and revisit some of it,
Okay.
but that's kind of the quick overview, not to bore you with every moment of every day. Wally had a question.
We're not more information on that 20-year-old.
You want more information on the 20-year-old?
Can he be sponsored by America?
I have no way to get in touch with him at this point, but what his plan was his grandmother was in Mexico City, so the state was actually helping him get to Mexico City where his grandmother lives, and that's where he was going. Yeah, actually, it gave me a little peace because most of the people I talked to there actually did have somebody that they knew that they were going to live with. They weren't just stranded. So, yeah. But this organization, one of our ministry partners, we worked with them because that's where one of our ministry partners works, and he's ministering to these people as they are brought over across the border. But this organization is doing a lot of great work to really help these people find a place to go, help them get, if they need money, because they've just been brought and left. They don't have anything. So they're providing phones for them. They're providing internet service so they can reach people and get in contact with someone to.
Born on the Mexico side?
He was, yes. He's a Mexican citizen, yes. Yeah.
Do they speak Spanish? Maybe that sounds strange, but if they grew up here, live here.
Right. They did, yeah. The ones I talked to either spoke Spanish solely or they spoke Spanish and English. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why that organization is necessary.
Why you mean just because when people are found in the U.S. because they have a tail light out or whatever, and they are the U.S. just sends them across the border, and so they're just left in Mexico without a place to live, without anything. So they're there in Nuevo Laredo, and that increases the crime in that area because they don't have anything. So if the cartel comes along and says, "Hey, do you want to deal with us?" Well, it's money for a meal for today, so yes, I do, and then they become mixed up in that kind of a thing. So it increases crime, so it's important for them, especially there at the border, to have some kind of a system to try to help them get placed or get back home or get with a family member or something, because otherwise they don't have anywhere to go. So this organization helps with that.
Barbara, did they have any place for them to sleep when they get dumped off like that?
They do there. They actually have a home that they take them to until, the family member comes to meet them or they get on the bus or whatever. Yeah.
I'd sponsor that 20-year-old in a minute.
Yeah. You think about that situation. You're 20 years old. You've never lived anywhere but here. Or it doesn't matter what age you are. Imagine yourself right now. You've never lived anywhere but in the U.S., and then suddenly you're picked up and dropped off in a country where you know nothing about it. So. Is that long enough? Or you? Yeah, Ryan.
Did you notice, so you've got a number of detainees that are brought back across the border, and the group that you were with, American, did you pick up on any resentment? Oh, these Americans, what are they trying to help us here? What was the vibe there?
I don't get that impression. I don't know what they're thinking, of course, but I mean, they're just grateful that we come and we brought lunch, and we had some folks that had collected shoes, and we gave out shoes, and they were grateful for us just caring about them. And I think they understand that it wasn't, we weren't the ones that deported them or whatever. That's not. And it's not about whether that's right or wrong. I'm not looking to start a conversation about whether or not we should deport people or not. But it's just about loving on people that are in a tough spot in life and praying for them and being with them. So I didn't sense any hostility towards us. And, some people were just like, I should have taken care of my papers, and then this wouldn't have happened. So.
How many states are represented for the people who are serving?
Oh, as part of the team?
Part of the team. Go ahead and name them.
Name them. Okay. So we had we had Texas, we had Oklahoma, we had Georgia, we had Alaska, Wisconsin, Colorado.
Was Virginia part of that?
We did not. No. So those 6, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
People with you are bilingual, you speak Spanish?
Yes.
I
Yes.
figured it was.
Yes.
Rhode Island?
No Rhode Island.
You can keep throwing them out there.
We go through all 50.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, like she said, that it's not about the politics. It's not about deportation, yes or no. It's not about the laws. It's about the human factor, and it's just a lot of these folks are in really rough shape, and unfortunately, they become targets because they get dropped off into one of the most violent cities on the street, sometimes in the middle of the night, when this deportee center is not open, so they're out left to fend for themselves on the street of a city that they don't know. And like in the case of that 20-year-old, he was 3 when he left the country, and it wasn't his idea. He wasn't somebody who was like, hey, I'm going to try to jump the border and live in the U.S. illegally. He went with his parents, and then he finds himself on the streets. So the fact that they have this deportee center is huge. I mean, that there's a place for them to sleep and to get a meal and to try to contact family locally. So that's a huge improvement. So.
I guess you brought this up, so it kind of makes everybody wonder about this. But does the government in Mexico help out or subsidize? Or are they part of your interaction with taking care of deportees? Or?
Go ahead.
Yes, in fact, that's the organization. The place that we were at was actually, it's run by the Mexico government, and we were actually honored to be able to go in and talk to the director and the assistant director and spend a little bit of time with them, and got to pray for them before we left. Specifically, a few of us went in, and that was an honor to be able, because they're working hard to help these people, and they need help doing that from the rest of the government to be able to do what they do. So, yes, they are being helped.
I have a question. Is there any way they can file for papers to legitimately get back to the States?
The emphasis with this particular department as a state-run organization is to help them repatriate as Mexican citizens. From what I understand of people who have tried to become U.S. citizens, even if you go about it legitimately and you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, it's a very long, involved, complicated, and I think often unsuccessful process. So I mean, I can't speak to it with any real experience, but I mean, I think it's very, very difficult to do.
And I imagine the ones are mixed right in with people that are deported that have major infractions too.
Yeah.
While you're loving on them, you gotta love carefully.
Well, and that's one of the beautiful things too, is that in that environment, she had one of the pictures up there from the deportee center where we're serving them pizza and drinks, where it's like, you end up with some pretty tough-looking dude with tattoos and piercings and everything, and he's he's got tears in his eyes when we're praying over the meal and for their protection, and he's right there alongside the 20-year-old who, had a broken tail light, and it's really nice to see that kind of level playing field in a spiritual sense. You didn't take up too much time, so I figured I'd help you take too much time. So.
Our goal is to always run long with this,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So we're on track.
Yeah, right. All right, so in the spirit of that, I did want to talk about our ministry partners luncheon, which those of you who know Barbara Miller, this was her idea, and she said, let's get all of our ministry partners together and have lunch with them, and just give them kind of a break, show them some honor and love on them. And so we did that, and we went to an Italian restaurant in Mexico, and it wasn't my idea. I'm just going to throw that out there.
But he voted yes for it.
I was in favor of it, but it wasn't my idea. But so we figured, well, if we take them to a Mexican restaurant, it'd be like, oh, for us it's good Mexican food, and for them it's good food. So why not have a cross-cultural experience for them as well? So there was a nice Italian restaurant there. Not $50 a plate type nice, but I mean it was more than a Domino's, and it was nice. We had a choice of entrees, and they come around and deliver your bread, your salads, and all that kind of stuff. So very nice. But the great thing was that they seemed to appreciate it so much. For us to say, we love you guys, we appreciate you, we want to recognize what you're doing here in the area, and it's such a big deal to help pour life and energy into those who are already pouring their life and energy into other people. So they're doing some really, really tough work, and for us to say thank you, that means a lot to them, and they really appreciated us spending that kind of time. And we just got to sit together. It's kind of like a church potluck. You sit down and you just gab, you just talk. And then, a couple of us were stupid enough to try to give little messages to a bunch of preachers. And, it's like, I don't know why we do that, but no, we figured if we're going to get a bunch of ministry leaders together, we figured we would kind of ground it in some scripture to remind us of, why we're all there in the first place. So.
And by ministry leaders, we were talking about like the pastors of the churches that we work with there. We're talking about the people that run the children's homes that are there, the people that run the Bible schools there. That's what we mean by our ministry partners. These are the people that we pair up with that are on the ground there all the time running these schools and churches and things.
Yeah. So you have people there who pastor churches or plant churches. Some of them run one of them runs an orphanage basically single-handed. She's got a couple of helpers. But so yeah, it was a great time for us to be together. You go to the next slide for me.
One question, are these the people then gifts that we gathered together went to, that you guys brought over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Barb will talk a little bit more about that later, I think. But can I borrow that clicker? Thank you. I have a power trip here. No. What was cool is there's just a little bit of effort, and we really, it made a big impact. So we reserved a restaurant and, put together a little bit of a lunch, and they were just so grateful. And that was what, makes you feel so good, because it doesn't, it wasn't that big an effort on our part, but they just felt so, they said nobody else does this, so that was really great. The gift bags, do you have pictures of those for later?
I do, but we can.
Okay.
We're at that point. I feel it.
Okay.
Remember one thing, the dollar's a little stronger than the peso.
Oh, it's substantially stronger.
You gotta get fantastic service.
We were watching the exchange rate every day. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, the gifts that we collected here that you guys brought for our ministry partners there. So there were we had different things. We had things for the men and women. We had cologne and lotions and perfumes and all kinds of different stuff that you guys had given. So when we got to Laredo, we divided it all out into bags for everybody based on everything that we had. And so we gave them the gift bags at the end of the lunch. And they were honored that we would think of them and bring them something. So not only did we treat them to lunch and brought them out, but we also had things for them. And they were all just very touched to open the bags. And I even had one of the ladies, she said, and she was one of the ones that received the bag as well. But she said, I saw some of the things that were in the bags, and she's like, y'all did good. So that was awesome, and I appreciate you guys being a part of that.
For the orphanage, did you visit the orphanage this time?
We did. We did too, yeah.
Did you happen to see some of the same people, or did most of those
Mhm. We see a lot of the same ones. Yeah, there's some turnover with the kids. You know, different ones move or different things, but yeah, we see a lot of the same ones.
The one orphanage where we got bogged down in Mud City, have they moved to their new facility yet?
They have not. We toured the new facility, which is coming right along, but they have not moved there yet. They're still, but the mud was gone. The mud was dried up, so
It's actually a gravel road now.
yeah, it's pretty nice.
Upgrades.
When did y'all do your Christmas trip back?
Second weekend in December.
So, like I said, we wanted to encourage them, and unfortunately, the message that Lee had ready, our director, he got kind of preempted because the food was ready, and everyone started delivering the plates, and so it was like he's like, in 1 John it says, and everyone's like, oh, that's my lasagna over here. Can I get some more water? And it's like, and then over in Timothy it says, and it's like, yeah, can I get some more rolls over here? And it's just, I have no idea what he was talking about too, because I was claiming my dish. But fortunately, I waited for all that, and then I got to talk, and then I just, so I let him be the guinea pig. Now we thought it was good to give them some encouraging words, and I was telling them, my idea was, hey guys, we love you, and we think that you're doing great work, and don't let it die with you. Don't let it, stop with you. At some point, you're going to want to retire or you're going to move on to something else. Don't let your ministry fail. And by the way, it's really good to have help. So a lot of these folks are, kind of like, I won't say they're lone rangers because they've got some help, but I mean, they've got to be training up leaders and people to kind of take the baton and help do some of that work. So I was encouraging them to do that because, I mean, some of them work so hard, and they need a break because they work so hard, but they also, ought to share their ministry, because if they're planting churches and caring for congregations, those people have gifts that need to be expressed and used as well. So that was good.
Most of these Americans are Mexican nationals.
No, these are Mexican nationals. Many of them speak very good English, though, or at least enough for us to communicate well. Billy, would you like to share some of your thoughts with us? Sure. I even got posted some of your...
This go down? Can everybody hear me? Okay. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Billy Hayes, and I go to Christ Community, who meets here on Saturday nights. And I'm going to kind of talk about my experience twofold. First, I want to talk about the actual mission and the missionaries. Steve asked me to come in and tell you what impressed me, what touched my heart. So my first is what impressed me, and it was the fact that even though most of the people were under the Grace Communion umbrella, there was other churches that were represented as well. And I thought it was awesome the way that different churches could come together and have one common goal and work together to serve the people of Mexico. And I just feel like if churches would do that more, if they just all come together and work together, that we could accomplish so much more. The other thing that impressed me were the ages of the missionaries that went. We had ages ranging from 13 to 69. So we had a big span of ages, and that just really meant a lot that broad age range could come together and just work together very well. What really touched my heart, there were so many things I couldn't even come up with 2 or 3, but each day, the first day we went to church in the park, and I thought, it can't get any better than this. And then the second day we did our mission work, and I'm like, it can't get any better than this. And it's like every day I'm saying that. It's like, it just can't get any better. It was such an experience. But 2 things that I could come up with was the hospitality of the people in Nuevo Laredo. I mean, these people have nothing, basically nothing. Yet they welcomed us into their homes. They fed us. One lady sent her son to the little store down the road to get cookies and soda. It was probably their last peso they had. But they were very hospitable. They welcomed us with open arms. I guess the biggest thing is the relationships that were formed and that are continuing to form. It's not like you just go in there, paint a wall, and you never see these people again. You go and you visit them at least twice a year. You learn about their families. You watch their children grow up. You love one another. It's just like they're your extended family living in Mexico. So that was real important to see that they're waiting for you to get there. I mean, the kids are just like waiting for the white vans to pull up, and they're just so excited to see us. And it's not that they want monetary things. They want you to play with them. They want you to hug them. They want you to love on them. You know, they're just so loving. I remember one little girl there. She, I think she's 9, and she was at Sister Juanita's orphanage. And she ran up to Mary, is the lady's name, and she's like, "Do you remember me from last year? Do you remember me?" And she's like, "Of course I remember you." And it was just very important to see all the kids that remember us and hoping that we remember them and to watch them grow up. And there were several comments made about, "Oh man, you were this big last year, now you're this big," you know. So it's just a relationship that's formed, and that's just was really touched my heart, is to know that next year that I'll get to go again and I'll get to be one of those people that say, "You remember me from last year?" And I can say, "Of course I do." So I feel very blessed. I feel very honored that I had the opportunity to go. It truly is. I know you've heard it life-changing, but it truly is life-changing. It's made a big impact on the way I look at things, what things I have, the things that we take for granted that we shouldn't. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Billy. Billy was absolutely amazing. I mean, from before we even left, she got to know this little guy really well at the restaurant. He was sitting right next to her. But man, Billy just dove in every time, and it was just that I just appreciate that so much. We would be at a family's home that we were visiting, and it was like I'd be thinking, well, I don't want to do that thing where all of the missionaries stand in one corner and then the family, the locals stand in one corner, and then before I know it, it's like Billy's already over there talking to them. She doesn't even speak Spanish. So she's doing sign language or charades or whatever, and I saw her laughing with them. It's like how do you know what they're saying enough to joke and laugh? But it's like I know that, but it's like she already just dug in. So you were just awesome. Thank you very much, Billy. It was great.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about how Hope Community Fellowship connected with the folks there, even though they're folks that you guys may have never met or may never meet. But so the rest of the gifts, we had also collected gifts because some of you had asked about what some of the poorer families in Mexico could use. And so we had collected things like basic stuff like hangers and clothespins and soap and toothpaste and just very basic stuff. And so we had actually 4 families that we divided the collections up amongst there. And so 3 of the families were families from one of the churches that we visit and work with. And this was when we went around to some of their homes and we just got to visit with them individually. So we were able to take them huge bags of stuff to these folks. So this is, you can see this is the outside of one of the houses, and the lady's standing kind of off to the right in the middle there. And then this is another one of them. So I took a picture with her in her house after we gave her the giant bag. You can see one of the bags there. And then we actually gave them 2 huge bags apiece. And then Crossing Borders also bought some basic grocery supplies for them too, like flour and oil and that kind of stuff. So we actually ended up taking them 3 huge bags of gifts for them. But you can see her house there. It's a cinder block house. You can't see very well. The floor is just dirt. So very, very basic, very limited. So the things that you don't think anything about, oh, I need clothespins, I'll just go to Walmart and grab some. It's not like that for them. And then the fourth family that we gave things to was the family that we built a home for 5 years ago. So we go back, we see them every year when we go down there, summer and winter, both trips. And so she was funny because we just gave her a big bin of stuff and she was going through it. And everything she pulled out, she wanted a picture with it. She's like, here, take my picture with Mary, take my picture with this. So everything she opened, she's like, here, take it, take a picture. So you can see shots of her with all kinds of stuff. So she's very excited. And then these are pictures. We were talking about the partners luncheon and the gifts that we gave out to the ministry partners there. So here's a few shots of those pictures with them with their bags and the things that they were going through. We were also able to make little flip book photo albums for each of the ministry partners with all of the trips the things that we've done with their churches or their children's home or whatever. So we had a little photo album for each of them, which they were very touched. Even some of the newer ones that we've only worked with a couple years, we were able to give them one. So they were all very honored to get those. And that's a whole God thing, and I'll save that story. You can ask me offline about that one if you want. And then here's one more story that I want to share with you guys about how Hope was connected with the folks there. So this is a church that we did the Vacation Bible School at. And after the Vacation Bible School was over, the kids went home and they served us lunch, as they do at most of the churches. So we had, an authentic Mexican meal there. And so we get to sit down and visit with some of the leaders there. And so I actually got to sit and visit with the pastor and his wife. This is Pastor Fernando and Nora. And so we were just sitting there chatting, talking about different things. And so then there's Pedro. He's with Crossing Borders team. He speaks Spanish, so he was translating for us. And so we were just kind of talking about their church. And so there was actually a really neat tie back, because on the winter trip, we gave out, they told us, 250 shoe boxes to kids at their church when we went that day there. But we had so many shoe boxes left that we actually left another 100 shoe boxes with them. And this was after we had been to another church that morning. And so we had delivered shoe boxes at that church, the first church. Children kept coming and coming and coming. And we were like, well, at what point are we going to cut this off? Because we have another church and another children's home to visit today. And so we gave out all these boxes, and some of the folks on our team were like, what are we going to do? We have to go back to camp and get more boxes. And we were like, we don't have time. There's no time to cross the border again and go back to camp. We just have what we have, and God will provide the rest. So we went to this church. We unloaded the vans. We unloaded 250 boxes. We gave all of those out and still had another 100 boxes to give out on top of everything else that we had given out. So what they did with the boxes was they took them on a mission trip 8 hours into the interior of Mexico. And they said, you think people here don't have anything? People there don't have anything. And so they took these boxes 8 hours in and gave them out way up in, I don't know where, the backwoods of where in Mexico that they gave out these boxes. And so anyway, they shared pictures of the kids that they had given them to there. And so as we talked, I was asking them, what I was actually asking, my question was, what are things that we can do when we're here that are helpful for you guys? Is Vacation Bible School helpful? Or is there something else that would be helpful? Well, we kind of got off on things that they needed for their church. Like they said that it would be really helpful if they had more of the fans, the wall-mounted fans, because it's so hot in the church in the summer. And I was like, okay. And they also have Vacation Bible School. And they need supplies for that in July, like they do like a 3-day event for the kids in the neighborhood. They needed supplies. And so it's like, okay. And it was kind of mentally, taking note of all of this. And so then we said, well, what about you guys personally? And you could tell the way that she smiled that there were things that she wanted to say, but she didn't actually want to say them, because that would be selfish, and that would be saying, what I want. And so finally we pulled it out of her, and she said, well, actually, she said, we could use fans or pots and pans or anything, because she said, we've lived like 2 blocks from the church. We've served here for the last 16 years, and everything that we buy, we end up bringing to the church and using here. So if we buy a fan, it comes to the church and we end up using it here. If I buy a pot, we bring it to the church, we end up using it here. She said, our floor is just a cement floor. Our walls are just cinder block. They're not stuccoed or anything. And she said, I told my husband I really wanted to start doing things on our home this year because she said, I'm embarrassed to have people over. People have us over, but I'm embarrassed at our house, so I don't invite them over. And so the folks here at Hope Community Fellowship had given me cash before we left. And I always take that high responsibility because I'm like, wow, if God's laid on your heart to give money to bless somebody, I want to make sure that the Holy Spirit is clear when the moment comes to give that money out, that I'm attentive and I don't miss that window. And so the more they talked, the more I thought, I just want to give everything that you guys here at Hope have donated. I just want to give that all to them for them and their church. So that's what we did. I was able to give them $200 for their church, for fans or Vacation Bible School or whatever they need, and then $200 personally. And I said, this is for you guys. This isn't buy stuff and then bring it to the church. This is for your home. And so at that point, she also shared with us that the mission trip where they took the boxes that we had left into Mexico, that they had raised money for that, but when it came time to go, they didn't have enough money. And the money she had been saving to tile her floor, she gave to make this mission trip into Mexico happen. And she said, so I gave, and now God is blessing me for giving up my money for the floor to go on the mission trip. So.
Is it pretty easy for them to get electricity? I mean, in the poorer parts, they don't have to, do they?
Yeah, I'll show you some pictures I took just because I thought they were funny. But the electricity in this part of Mexico is largely you just splice off the nearest power line and run it to your house. Seriously. And the power companies from what we've been told, and this is more than once, they don't really care so much about it. It's like it's just the way it is, and they just kind of let it go. So, I mean, and you should see the way some of the lines are run. I mean, it's just... So yes, they often do get electricity. This particular church has enough electricity. I was asking, what about air conditioners? Would that blow your whole place? And the funny thing is, well, they hardly have fuse boxes, so it won't blow anything. But I mean, but they said, this particular couple, their church, if we wanted to fundraise to get them a couple air conditioners for their sanctuary, they could support it. So the funny thing is, I also talked to Raimundo, another, one of our ministry partners, and he said, that kind of stuff is good, and it's also helpful just sometimes just for the pastor couple, just for them to have an air conditioner in their house, because they work all day in the hot church, and then they go home to a hot home, and sometimes it might recharge them a little bit to have some air conditioning. But either way, short answer is yes, they tend to get some access to some electricity, but it's not like ours.
I have another question. Is there any way we can get companies to sponsor stuff to go down, like in the spring trip? Because I know at Christmas time y'all are jam-packed with shoe boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of companies, a lot of places do if you go in with your cause, a lot of places will support and donate. So if you think there's a place that would, by all means, we can.
Well, I was just thinking back home where we lived in Mount Pleasant, Campbell Soup would send a truckload of their product to the food pantry there. It's just the means of going and talking to them.
Right.
And their business, I believe, is in Paris, Texas.
I did get in touch with, I think it was Pepsi. They have I wanted to see if they would donate something, because they sell much more than colas. I mean, they've got all kinds of flavored waters and everything. And I think I was asking if they would want to donate some Dasani bottles or something like that. And they referred me to their local Mexico office. And, I need to get that to somebody who speaks Spanish, and then see if they can do something with that. But yeah.
What kind of air conditioning would they use? Like window air conditioning or?
That would be the
Something on
easiest.
roof or what?
Yeah, in most cases, a window unit would be easiest. In a lot of Mexico, they use what they call a mini split, which is like this kind of combination. It looks kind of like a long air conditioner, but it also puts out heat, and it kind of goes up high in the wall, and a lot of people use those. But just a plain old window air conditioner would make a difference too. Yeah, Linda?
They don't think that that might open them up for theft? I mean, after all, here, air conditioners get robbed all the time.
Yeah, it definitely would be a risk.
Just
Yeah,
for metal.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you have any trouble with customs and taxes this time?
Why don't you take this one?
We had the easiest border crossings I have seen in 8 years that I've gone. Yes. In fact, coming back into the U.S., 2 days they didn't even look at our passports. Didn't open the van door, didn't look us. I've never seen them do that. Yeah. And then in Mexico, there were a couple of days that they stopped us. They opened a couple boxes in the back and sent us on through. So there was completely uneventful border crossings this year.
Maybe I shouldn't go there. Here's the part that upsets me. You talk about the 20-year-old, the tail light, and then you got the guy in San Francisco that killed Kate Steinman. That's the part I don't like.
Yeah. It's a very,
Kate's law, it's just been passed, and he's been deported 4 or 5 times. Of course, San Francisco's a sanctuary city. That's the part that's ugly.
Oh yeah, the whole thing is so complicated. I mean, that's just there is no easy answer, or it would have been fixed by now. But yeah, it's rough. But it's nice to just be able to minister to the people that you can. You know, the ones who are right in
But I
front of
admire
you.
what y'all are doing. You don't know how much.
Well, thank you.
But you guys are all a part of it. That's the point in these stories, is that the things that whether you go or not, whether you pray for us, whether you send things, whether you're a part of it. It takes all of it to make it happen. So thanks for being a part of it. Linda, you had a question?
Well, I had seen it, and it was talking about the sad part was a lot of these young people have served in the military here, and they didn't realize that they should get their citizenship while they were in the military, and have been deported.
Yeah.
And of course, they're in the same position as this 20-year-old, and yet they've served.
Yeah, that's why this kind of ministry really, is so impactful, because you just have people who are in these really, really rough spots, and it's just the way they were treated is just really,
She's right about that, but some of them was granted citizenship too.
Yeah,
Sure.
sometimes, but
yeah,
it didn't mean it was easy.
right,
I know.
yeah.
Well, I was wondering that the cash that you gave them, I'm curious about the neighborhood. Do they have stores in the area that can just walk down and buy fans, or, what are the supplies like in that area?
Well, they, this particular pastor and his wife, they have a car, so they'd be able to go to like Home Depot or Walmart or something and actually purchase the fans there. Yeah.
There are developed parts of the city with, American-sized stores, so they literally have Home Depot there, it's just a matter of driving across town. But often the issue is just funds, so it's a matter of, can we help them out with something? And we've kind of gone back and forth about, would it be better for us to buy something and bring it to you? And often, unfortunately, it would be better just to give them the money. But, with these people, we know them, we trust them, that for crying out loud, they give away everything they have. So, it's not like we hesitate. So.
I had a couple questions. What does Mexico do if you are caught as an illegal going into Mexico? Do you have any idea? I mean, you were concerned about your papers and stuff.
Our experience has just been that, as long as we pay the fee on the bridge as we're going in, and then when we leave, either way, there's no paper checking, and that's part of the, such a long story, we're already out of time, but the constantly shifting government regimes are part of what make this unstable second world type country. And so part of what we're so happy about with the Deported Center is that it seems to have sprung up out of nowhere. And so as we got to talk with the director and some of the staff, my biggest question was, is it likely this is going to stick around? And so that is definitely their hope. But the reality, as I was afraid of, the reality is the next governor, the next president could come in. Their emphasis could be completely different. This Deported Center could be shut down so that they can go and do something else. And then all of this work will basically, it was good for who it served, but then it's gone. So that this instability of something coming up and coming, the current director said that the previous governor, I think it was, his emphasis was on the elderly. So he would, help fund nursing homes, not so much with the deportees. The current one wants this to be a big deal. And hey, if he gets reelected, great, but that's not really likely. So he might get out. Then it's a matter of what does the next guy care about? And we experienced that somewhat in the U.S., but not to quite the tumultuous extreme that they have it there. And it's part of the reason they don't make progress into being a first world country like we do. So.
The time space between the elections then, when you're saying this, what would be the next election time? 3, 4, 5 years or 2?
I think it's 2. I mean, 2 or less. I mean, so. Yeah.
Do any of the people that we serve have ongoing contact with either Lee or anybody else about their needs throughout the year, so that it's not just summer and winter
Yeah.
that we make an impact ongoing?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean,
The short answer is yes. That we have, Lee or others from our team, we talk to them throughout the year. We find out, what's going on. If there's needs at other times, we help them out then as well. Some of them it's harder to reach. We have better connection, just literally phone. It's just easier by phone to reach some people than it is others. But before we go, the month or 2 in advance of that, we're always like, what do you need? What's going on? So yes, we do have more than just twice a year contact with them.
Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I did want to wrap up with this to bring it home, was that Barbara often speaks of how beautiful it is when we go on these trips, of how all of the missionaries bond so quickly. And, of course that's going to happen when you're all sharing a communal bathroom and you're listening to each other snore and, it's like you're sharing bedrooms. I mean, that kind of closeness breeds a certain amount of familiarity and comfort, right? But on the same token, it could go also so much worse. People could get on each other's nerves. It's hot. They're long days. You go without sleep and without rest and without food sometimes for a while. And actually, lately the food's less of a problem because everywhere we go they feed us. But I mean, they're trying conditions, and yet everyone is so bound together as a family, and it's amazing. And Barbara and I always talk about how it would be great for our congregation to be the same way. It would be great for any congregation to be the same way, to have that kind of close-knit family feel. And on the one hand, you could say, well, I guess we all need to share a cabin together. And I don't think that's the answer. I think that some immediate no's to that. No, that was my point. I think it's a matter of focus and expectation. And it occurred to me this time that when we go on these trips, every day you expect God to show up and to do something amazing. And I don't know that in Western culture we do the same thing in our worship experience. I don't know that we show up every Sunday and expect God to be there and expect something amazing. I don't know that we expect to be intimate with God in a special way. But that's part of the mission experience. But I would argue you don't need to go to Mexico for that. That's something that's very possible. It's a matter of expectation and focus. So if we come to services and we expect to spend time in communion with each other and with God, and we focus on what is God doing, like we are now. What is God doing in Mexico? What is God doing through this missions organization? What has He enabled us to do? then that kind of focus, I mean, brings people together in a very special way. So I think that the idea of focus and expectation together for us in a church is what can really bind us together. So like I said, next week I want to talk about some roadmap plans for going forward. And if we all rally around some of those ideas and we really emphasize the same things and do things expecting God to show up and do great things, then I know he will. So let's do that together. So, yeah, question?
I just want to say thank you for sharing in words and
Sure.
telling us the experience
Yeah.
that you're talking about. Since I've experienced it, I know exactly what you're saying, but
Yeah.
now they can visualize the reality of it by
Yeah.
sharing with pictures and words.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we ought to give Barbara and Steve a big hand for what they're doing.
We didn't finish that. Well, thanks, you guys. You guys are there with us. I mean, it's a group effort. So thank you. I think that concludes the slideshow. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask us after services. We'll be happy to talk some more about it. That's all we have for now. We are going to go again in the winter. You're always welcome to join us. The winter trip is easier. It's only a few days. It's not
And it's cooler.
and it's cooler. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It actually does get a little chilly. So yeah. So all right. Thanks everybody. We will continue with our music and then we'll wrap up.